So I feel like as though over the last year, I'd say we're definitely started to have a cultural shift a little bit. And that could either be whether it's, Trump being elected in the US a few months ago, now he's in office, or it could be as well that a lot of gamers have been having backlash over a lot of video games that have been pushed with DEI and diversity and this political ideologies as the forefront of their games over actual great gameplay or great story writing. And to me, I would personally say, because whenever I do talk about politics and DEI and anything like that, I always only really talk about it when it comes to video games. And I feel as though there is being a massive shift of when it comes to the way that video games have started to be made within the gaming industry, and that a lot of things are going to change. And I definitely think that the straw that kind of broke the camel's back with this, because we have had many great examples of these so-called DEI games and games that are considered woke. I mean, I don't really like using that word because I feel like it's kind of become a little bit of a boy cry wolf kind of word. I mean, even DEI is getting to that point as well. But these games that are considered under that umbrella, I would definitely say that the kind of straw that broke the camel's back for this would have to be Dragon Age the Veilguard. Without a doubt, to me, this is the game that's really solidified the cultural change and the fact that I can see now DEI starting to go away from games, and this really being death of DEI within video games. And obviously this has been going on for a long time now, and Dragon Age the Veilguard has obviously been out for a while, and I've discussed it many times on my channel. I discussed just how bad the writing is, but it just came out recently about how much it actually underperformed, with EA coming out and putting the blame on Dragon Age, as well as FIFA, or EA FC as it's now called, as it lowers its forecast, with Dragon Age the Veilguard missing the company's expectations by nearly 50%. This game only sold 1.2 million copies, which isn't all that bad, but considering how much money was put into these games, that's terrible. And the fact that they expected it to sell 3 million copies, I mean, isn't really all that good, because even though a lot of the critics were saying that this game's really good, and they're saying that the sales for Veilguard were starting off strong, I mean, let's be honest, the way that it was heading even before the game came out, it was not great. It was not looking good. A lot of the reception for this game in terms of the actual public, because when it comes to journalists, what journalists thinks and what the public thinks, journalists' opinions don't really matter at the end of the day. It really matters about what the audience wants, which is why there has now started to be this death of DEI, and why a lot of people are starting to talk about this, because of these recent numbers with EA. It has gotten so bad that EA's stocks dropped by 21%. 21%. They absolutely plummeted when these reports came out about how much of an underperformance Dragon Age did. Their stocks plummeted so much. And once again, it's because of how the audience perceived this game. And obviously there was a lot of people who are definitely on the opposite side of that, where they say, no, Dragon Age was actually great and people just didn't appreciate the game so much, or it wasn't necessarily the DEI that came to this game, because this post was put out on the Dragon Age Veilguard subreddit earlier in the day of me, the moment of me recording this. It was probably uploaded about 12 hours ago now. But in this long paragraph where they addressing the anti-woke crowd, if you go to the bottom here where it says, my advice to fans, be intentional and be specific about things you want in the next game. Don't post angry ravings about DEI or woke things. Actually look at the game and identify what is missing that you want to be there next time. Well, what we want there next time is not for this slop to be in the game, because I made a whole entire video about how bad the writing was in Dragon Age the Veilguard. That was one of the main points. It's not that people are just calling out DEI because a game's bad. No, there are so many games out there that are bad that don't have DEI in it whatsoever. No, of course there is. There's a lot of games out there that are just shit. Not because of DEI, but because they're just shit. But if a game is shit and it has DEI in it, of course people are going to say that. And the writing in Veilguard is one of the main components of this whole entire series, Dragon Age in general. When it comes to Origins, people rave about how great of a story Dragon Age Origins is. And I've talked about how great BioWare has been in the past, with me particularly loving, Knights of the Old Republic. But then you go ahead and you look at like Veilguard, where it's just pushing political ideologies that no one really cares about, and that's very indecisive and not very popular in the mainstream. Of course people aren't going to like it. Of course people aren't going to go ahead with it. And I could definitely see that with this whole of Dragon Age like failing, and especially with the numbers coming out recently about how bad it did, I 100% see this as the death of DEI. And there's obviously many other factors with this. Like I mentioned at the start of my video, obviously when it comes to the whole entire cultural shift, a lot of people are just putting it like to the audience itself, like just within video games. But obviously, when it comes to the whole entire Trump administration, whether you like it or not, obviously, culture has influence on the government, or the government has influence on the culture as well. And like, whoever they elect in America, because, I do have to mention that as much as I am here in Australia, a lot of these games that have been fed with DEI, a lot of them come from Western developers that are in countries such as America. And when it comes to, the Trump administration, they recently ordered that every government agencies to shut down their DEI offices by tomorrow at 5 p.m., which this came out like a few days ago already by the time of me making this video. And obviously, if the government's going ahead and shutting down these DEI offices, of course, these other companies are going to follow suit, because they see that it's not really doing them any justice. If anything, they're just spending money on these offices and on these departments, and they're not really getting anything out of it. But not only that, but they're actually losing stuff out of it. You also get a lot of people when it comes to this whole entire political argument as well, and DEI in video games, they say that there should be diversity, there should be diverse. The world is naturally diverse. Politics has been in games forever. Just look at something like Metal Gear Solid, that's a very political game. And to that, I say yes. The world is very naturally diverse. And yes, politics have always been in video games. And Metal Gear Solid is a great example of politics being in video games. But the difference between when it comes to things being natural and then also things being shoved in your face, that more of a political ideology than political themes, and something that's actually, isn't really as popular. Because if you really think about it, like a lot of the topics that they talk about in Dragon Age of Veilguard, when it comes to these non-binary people, and it comes to them using they, them pronouns, that's something that's not really popular within the actual normal person. Like when it comes to Metal Gear Solid, when it comes to them criticizing the military complex, that was a very popular opinion about how much money they were spending on the military and how it is actually quite corrupt. That is an extremely normal opinion to have. And it's done also in a way where it's not just completely shoved directly down your throat and they're trying to make you, believe this, like saying, hey, you, yes, see this opinion that we have? You have to believe it, and like shoving it completely down your throat. They do it in a way that feels natural and in a way that's told extremely well. It's more than, like I've said many times, it's a difference between having something that's politically themed and shoving political ideologies in games. Because yes, Metal Gear Solid, I would say, is more politically themed. The story is politically themed, but it's not just directly taking these subjects and saying, military bad, yes, spending bad, military corrupt. It's corrupt, guys. Military is corrupt. No, it tells it in such a natural way that makes you question things, just not in the game speak, but also in real life as well. And when it comes to, the whole entire world being naturally diverse, yes, it is naturally diverse, but these games don't make it natural. They make it where they try to shove it in your games where it's like, hey guys, look, we're adding this into the game. Look at us. We're being diverse, guys. We're being this. Oh, look at this. We have DEI because we're trying to push this people that are so-called, minorities in the community. We're trying to push them into the limelight. Let it come naturally. If you just do things naturally and not think about these diverse and equity inclusions, then things will just come as they should be, as they've always been. So I definitely think that it's good that DEI is dying. I mean, especially more for me when it comes to the video game industry. I mean, when it comes to other industries, I'm not like too interested in it. Obviously, I still think that overall DEI was never really that much of a great thing. I mean, it loses companies' money, and also just the general like public, like the everyday person doesn't care for DEI and doesn't really like it either. So the fact that it's dying, and within the video game industry, I see Dragon Age the Veilguard as it being like the last straw, as it being like the damn, look how much money EA lost because of the criticism they got when it come to this whole, you know, woke and DEI within this video game. But I would definitely like to hear what you guys think about this down below. What's your opinions when it comes to like DEI? Do you think that it's completely on its way out? Do you think it will ever be a chance for it to make a comeback within the gaming industry or within the culture in general? I would definitely like to hear what you guys think about all this down below. That's going to be it from me. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.